This is the ZMAR Podcast. Elite Benefits of America helps small and mid-sized companies with their health insurance programs. And now, your host, Butch ZMAR.
Higher standards. In the movie In the Heart of the Sea, they share a story that led to the fiction about Moby Dick. And it's based on some true event, but it's actually a good movie. But they had their ship sunk because of the big whale that was causing them problems, and they stumbled on this island for weeks. They waited for help, not only at sea, but on the island itself, and they finally get rescued to be brought home. And so when they got back to their mainland, the first mate was called into a room with the captain to kind of debrief everything that went on. And the ship owners wanted them to change their story so that everybody could profit, and they were going to pay him a lot of money and the captain a lot of money, basically to keep their mouth shut. And they weren't. He wasn't having it. He was challenged with lying, and he said that, but he's not going to do that because it wasn't true. Just so he can make money and everybody else can make money. He told the captain that he shouldn't do it either, and he walked out. So when the captain went to the press conference, obviously which way is he going to go? And he ended up telling the real truth and not lying to everybody just so they can make money. The higher integrity is hard to come by, and and these guys were trying to cash in on insurance policy that if they told the story a different way. But we hear stories like this often. Usually, it could be small stories, big stories. It could be, some individual that's trying to go against the masses, or the masses going after one individual. And, one example of this is just monopolies, right? So you got Standard Oil Company that eventually got broken up, even though the owner of Standard Oil Company ended up profiting more by the breakup than prior. So sometimes the government doesn't think too far in advance, but still there was a breakup because the masses went against, because there was a monopoly and controlled pricing of oil. The same thing with AT&T in the breakup, but then you fast forward 30 years and AT&T just gobbled back up. And so now, but there's more competitors, but they got broken up and then merged back together over time. But it's, less likely that a lone individual, or a small group, stands for integrity against everybody else that goes in there. And one example of that is Rosa Parks, when she stood her grounds because she was tired and didn't want to give her seat, during the civil rights movement. But also many members of war, so our military, were faced with making decisions that went against leadership. There's countless stories that go into it. Even the story of the capture of the U-571, Admiral Nimitz, that changed the outcome of World War II after the Pearl Harbor attack. There was Sergeant York in World War II that changed some outcomes, even as an individual. And then more modern times, you got the retired Navy SEAL Jocko Willink. He doesn't try to take credit for him. He's very humble, but he stood the ground to improve the playbooks for war, to have better outcomes in battle and save men and women as casualties. And so they're still using those today after he rewritten a lot of them. He says he just did his part. Very humble guy, but obviously one going against outliers for higher standards. And then there's the one that nobody knew better than just lighting candles in their home to produce lights. And then there was the outlier, Thomas Edison, who stood to make the world a better place with electricity and lighting. Most of the stories go unknown, though, like the kid that stood up to the bully to protect another kid. Or maybe there was money that was found and returned to the right owner fully intact. I actually personally know a guy that lives in Kansas now. He originally was from the Chicago area. He lost his wallet visiting a friend while he was in Kansas. 2 days later, a gentleman returned it. They figured out who it was. They returned it, and it was untouched. The money and the cards were in place. He moved to Kansas as a result because he thought that was the neighborhood he wanted to be in. We need to live in a world where more of this happens, where we stand up for what is right, we address what is wrong, we create incentives to make things better for more than just one person or a group of people that's arm's length away. It's hard when society as a whole either accepts it or doesn't accept it. It's sometimes we try to go with the status quo. And then even in more recent events, there was a story of the United Health Group, which is the owner of United Healthcare and some other subsidiaries. They hit an all-time high revenue. The publication talked about 400 billion in revenue. But much of it was credited to their pharmacy arm, the Optum RX. And so, which is a pharmacy benefit manager, whether you're in a fully insured or self-funded plan. And then much of it was because they were collecting manufacturer rebates. And this happens a lot. And clearly they're doing things the correct way because they're allowed to do this, as if they were, trying to be transparent about the whole thing. But, in the publication and they had a recent investor hearing, and they had said that they're going to, by 2028, they're going to try to give those rebates back to the policyholder instead of collecting them. I doubt that's going to actually occur, but the reality is they're not passing on those rebates to save money for the policyholders. They're charging the full price, and then they're collecting those rebates. But not only that, they have a financial incentive to charge the full price because it's only the brother company paying the sister company, and then they're going to charge premium to offset it, right? So it's not costing them anything more, so they might as well just gamify the system and charge the most, even though they're not paying for it. Another term for this is definitely kickbacks, right? If I personally, as insurance agent, licensed insurance agent, and many other professions are the same way, where if we receive a kickback in this business, it's actually called rebating. And so in almost all the states, if not all of them, rebating is illegal for professional licenses. And so I will lose my license and lose my ability to earn income, not only for myself, but my own employees and staff. And then I won't be able to serve our clients in the correct manner, that is. But still, it's a form of rebating. It's illegal, but somehow these insurance companies could collect those rebates and still maintain their business status, and nobody does anything and they look the other way. And I'm sure they could justify why they're doing this. That's why they're doing it the way they are. But I could also say that most cheaters and criminals would justify their reasons too. I'm sure a bank robber would find every reason why it's legit why he did it and it shouldn't be arrested. I'm sure there's a way. So despite that, the CEO of United Healthcare Group said that they were going to actually start passing those on in 2028. I think it's going to get punted, and that's just from the world of Butch Zemar. I mean, that's what they told the investor group. Let's see if it actually happens. But, United Health Group is not the only one that's done this, so let's not center them specifically. But some of the Blue Cross franchise, because they're not an insurance company, it's just a franchise with a logo like McDonald's. And they got caught, some of them got caught doing this as well, but they were doing it in a different format because it actually went to court and they end up losing. And so as a result of that, they end up selling off some pharmaceutical piece to, I think, Walgreens. And so that became, more of a segregation, but there's still rebates going back and forth in some capacity. It's not being passed on to the consumer. And so we just need to hold the industry to a much higher standard and hold it to that integrity, just like the first mate did in that one movie about Moby Dick. So even as, we're recording this in 2025, the first part of it, we have a new or old president back in office. The Trump administration's big on transparency. I mean, they created some laws in the first term that he had. And also our industry, shouts out from the rooftop saying that we need more transparency. The problem I have with this transparency kick and this trend, or it's a buzzword, if you will, is assuming they disclose the pricing. There's a lot of hospitals and providers that are not willing to do this yet because they feel like it's private or it's questionable because of your insurance or your cash pay. There's so many variables that go in it. Well, I don't understand why that is. But because even with if you get in a car accident and you're getting a car repair and insurance company's paying them, but they still have a fixed cost. It's not like, well, it depends on who's paying what. Now, does some of them give a cash payment discount if a consumer is doing it? Yeah, I'm sure it happens. I mean, providers give cash payment discount, but there's still a line item cost for each thing that is going on. The problem I have with it now is that, sure, you could go ahead and disclose any fee you want, but instead of being surprised later when you get the bill, they're basically telling you how they're going to screw you and how the price is overpriced or overcharging you to begin with on the bill before you even start. And so, sure, they're going to give it to you, but if the $700 or whatever it is for an aspirin while you're in the hospital, right? They're just going to tell you in advance now. Obviously, it's way, way overcharged, and there's no integrity, right? There's nothing there. They don't care. They can just gouge the system. And what are you going to do? Say no, or I'm going to go to the hospital next door? They're going to do the same thing. Provider next door, it's going to be pretty similar to that. There's no integrity or honesty, and there's no ethics in pricing in the healthcare world. From my perspective, why do we even need a rebate on pharmaceutical manufacturers? Why don't you just charge the fee, the net fee, right? Especially when healthcare costs enough. I get in some places like Menards has these rebates. They're all year round. It's save 11%. You send these receipts in. If you don't, they don't give the rebate. I mean, that's just really trying to incentivize coming back in the store. It has a different purpose, right? I do get annoyed where I'm like, why don't you just give me the sale price? Why do I have to wait until this coupon shows up? But that's how you say big money at Menards, right? But anyhow, it's a different market altogether. It's not healthcare, right? And healthcare is super expensive. Not only are we paying all these premiums, but now you're going to ask them to pay a 5-figure amount when claims occur. And people are still trying to figure out how to put groceries on the table. And even with discounting, right? So you could get a discount by asking for it. You get the PPO discount that the contract, that the insurance companies enjoy. But why do you need to even do that if the price is what it is, right? And currently all the prices are just overcharged. And the example I gave about the bodyman repairing your car, it could be a mechanic, right? You go in, even if they're doing a diagnostic on your car to figure out what's going on, you have a pretty good idea what that cost is. It's going to be within a certain range of that. And you know about this in advance. There's no question in it. And it's very affordable when you look at the work. And on top of that, the mechanic is happy to do the work and they're making money. And so with these doctors out there, it's just a high volume industry. And in fact, I know I talked about another podcast that a lot of these meetings at hospitals or big provider groups, they talk about profits for the physician, not about outcomes, right? They don't talk about how many cured cancer cases they did. It doesn't even show up in a meeting that's business related in a hospital. It's about how much revenue per physician. It's about how much revenue per profit center. It's not about the outcomes. And maybe there's some other statistic, but I think a lot of those meetings are just how do we increase revenue per physician or per profit center. And so let's just get things back to affordability, and it won't take Washington to make changes to do this. It's just going to be forcing your providers to actually make the change. I do think it has to become within the industry, and I think employers have to shout from their own rooftops together and make that change and increase the integrity of the industry.